want to start with a program that had a lot of expectations coming into this season. As of 2 weeks ago, things were rosy for the Miami Hurricanes and Mario Cristobal. You fast forward, coming off a brutal loss to Middle Tennessee State at home in a game where they were favored by 20-plus points. This is kind of now got a lot of people shaking their heads. Tyler Van Dyke, certainly a guy that heaped a lot of praise during the offseason, has been good up until this point in the season, even though Miami's offense has sputtered at times. He gets pulled in the second half of this game in favor of Jake Garcia. Drew, I know you're down there in the heart of it in the Sunshine State right now. What are you hearing, and what are your biggest takeaways on Miami's loss to Middle Tennessee this weekend?
Well, my first question I don't even know if it's to you, Cooper, but just everyone in general, is this loss worse than Miami falling to FIU under the direction of Manny Diaz? Because I think you could make the case that it is. I mean, Miami got absolutely ran off the field. They gave up passing plays of 98, 89, 71, and 69 yards. Yes, Tyler Van Dyke threw 2 interceptions. The offense sputtered, but the defense looked horrible. And, Miami paid all this money to get Mario Cristobal there. They pay all this money for Josh Gaddis. They pay all this money for Kevin Steele. And this, to me, is just an inexcusable performance. From a talent perspective, blue chip ratio, whatever you want to call it, the Hurricanes are by far on a different level than Middle Tennessee. And the Hurricanes, they just got out-schemed, out-coached on their own field. I'll finish with this, Cooper. I think new gambling strategy moving forward. Anytime there's a lightning weather delay, take the team that's on the road, because I haven't done a full research on this, but Miami, game kickoff was delayed by a little lightning delay. ACC Network couldn't even put their guys up in the camera, so you're watching like this all 22 angle, and it was just a mess for the Hurricanes. And I know Auburn's first 2 games of the season versus Mercer and San Jose State, they also had a big weather delay in it, and they didn't cover in either one of those games. So something to think about moving forward, because maybe that lightning indicates bad things are coming for that home school.
Here's a stat for you, Drew. Middle Tennessee State, their first win in 21 tries against a ranked Power 5 opponent. How about that for Middle Tennessee State? They get that done. But Miami, you're talking about Manny Diaz in that loss against FIU, and you look at Miami, 3 first-quarter turnovers. The first Power 5 team to do that this season. The last Power 5 team to do that last year, Miami, right? So you're kind of looking at Miami, ready for them to turn over a new leaf. A lot of the same bad habits there. And Drew, I think you said it, just an absolutely inexcusable performance. Our Josh Pate, made some really interesting comments about the national perception of Josh Gaddis. Obviously, was noted as a big-time hire for Mario Cristobal when he brought him to Coral Gables from Michigan. And now you kind of take a step back. You're at 10,000 feet. We're 4 games into the season. Miami at 2-2. To me, this is one to kind of keep our eye on a little bit. But Drew, I don't think this is really going to be a talent acquisition issue for Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes right now, as they sit inside the top 10 with the number 10 ranked recruiting class. I think that has a couple of opportunities to improve throughout the next couple months as they approach early signing day. Mario Cristobal on the recruiting trail, to me, is not going to be the issue. It's what you said, though, about a lot of those accomplished coaches and a lot of that experience on that staff. For you to have Josh Gaddis, Kevin Steele, Charlie Strong, some of the names, Alex Mirabal on that staff, and turn into this performance is head-scratching in itself.
No, I agree with you. I mean, Jamal Adai, 24/7 Sports Recruiter of the Year last season. They brought in all these big names, and it's not working out. And I don't know what the answer is. When I watched that game, I didn't really know, and I haven't been able to figure out what the Hurricanes want to do on offense. We've said it in the past. I think they lack a wide receiver one, but I think they just lack playmakers in general. Jalen Rooster Knighton, he gets 7 snaps against Middle Tennessee. To me, he's one of the most dynamic players they have on offense. Elijah Arroyo, a former top 247 tight end. He only plays 30 of the 98 offensive snaps, whereas Will Mallory plays almost all of them. To me, Elijah Arroyo, he can help you as an inline blocker. So Miami's on a bye this week. You pay all these coaches all this money, figure it out, right? Obviously, some of the guys are out recruiting tonight, but this is the perfect time to get things in order. And it sounds like there's going to be an open quarterback competition between Jake Garcia, who came in for Tyler Van Dyke. It looked like Jake was felt more comfortable pushing the ball down the field. I think Tyler's a little too afraid to make a mistake. So interested to see how this shakes out. And if I'm Miami, I'd even consider maybe putting Ja'Cory Brown some type of wildcat package. I mean, you got to open this thing up and hit reset and figure it out, because you're going to have to be able to score in the ACC. Sure, down year in conference, but you can't come out there and be playing from behind this slow tempo of football. Not if your defense giving up huge 60-yard plus scrimmage plays.
So there you have it, Miami fans. Honeymoon is officially over between Mario Cristobal and Coral Gables. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's going to be interesting. But let's go to the Big Ten now. A couple teams opened up Big Ten play. That is Michigan State coming off a tough loss in Seattle against top 25 ranked Washington. They lose at home against a Minnesota team that dominated them physically 34-7. In this game. And for the second consecutive game, Michigan State and the Spartans give up more than 500 yards of total offense. Right now, Michigan State sitting at 2-2, reeling. Drew, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, the big storyline is, are we sure Michigan State should have given Mel Tucker that big of a contract extension? I mean, what is he guaranteed? $95 million over the next 10 years. This is a coach that's only 15-9. He has one winning season under his belt, and I don't know how we're certain that they're going to make a bowl game. Look at that schedule they just had up on the screen at Maryland, Ohio State coming up. I think it's going to be clawing to make the postseason. And for me, where does Michigan State go? Obviously, Mel Tucker is not leaving. He's locked in for a lot of money over the next few years. But when I just take a step back and look at this program, right, what made Mel Tucker so successful last year? How did they get to 11 wins? They were super active in the transfer portal. They did a little bit of that this year, but they also have used a bunch of counters and scholarship numbers on the high school ranks. And right now their class is sitting, I think it's 22 in the country, some guys we really like. But I think it's going to be hard for them to add to that. So that lust in what they got from that magical season last year, it's all gone now that they are 2-2 on the year. I think Mel Tucker needs to get back in the transfer portal. That seems to be his recipe for success. I mean, yeah, you keep recruiting the high school ranks. That's the NFL draft, but the free agencies where they need to turn it around, specifically in that secondary. Same thing as Miami. They are really struggling on that back end.
Lack of run game and pass defense, I think, relevant for Michigan State the last 2 weeks. And you look at Minnesota, what they did in this game in terms of their third down conversion rate, 10 of 12 on third down. They also own the time of possession, 42-40. Mel Tucker likes to talk about taking the opponents into the deep end of the water. That's what P.J. Fleck and his crew did in East Lansing. So I think if you're a Michigan State fan right now, you're a little bit at a crossroads. I think, Drew, you mentioned the next 4 games. I mean, Maryland, Ohio State, Wisconsin, in Michigan. I think you got to win 2 out of the next 4 for Michigan State as they tried to aim to get back to the postseason, but certainly already 2-2, deflating through their first 4. So Michigan State, and you talked about it, Drew, you also hit on their portal use over the last 2 years, ranked 31st and 20th in the first 2 years under Mel Tucker. I think that's been probably one of the greatest assets Mel Tucker's had at his disposal. Now trying to build for the long term and kind of sprinkle in the high school talent acquisition as well. So Big Ten play there right now for the Spartans, 0-1. They look to get back on track against Maryland next week. But Drew, what's a segment without Texas, right? Texas, I feel like we talk about every week, and it seems like just when they pull you back in and they say, you know what, they're turning around. They had that close game against number 1 Alabama at the time at home, a game they should have won. Quinn Ewers goes down. They've been battling since then. I thought they showed some resolve last week against Texas San Antonio, a good Texas San Antonio team. And then up by double digits in Lubbock in the second half, they find a way to lose this game. Bijan Robinson fumble on the first possession of overtime. Texas Tech, huge win for Joey McGuire, first-year head coach. Texas now sitting at 2-2, 0-1 in Big 12 play. Now you're kind of wondering, Drew, okay, are we getting ready to go through this again for a second straight season under Steve Sarkisian? They got West Virginia this weekend. What's your pulse on where things are trending for Texas right now?
I think Steve Sarkisian has as much pressure on him heading into Week 5 than anyone else in the country, right? They're 2-2. You lose on the road at Texas Tech. I don't know how much we want to talk about the Red Raiders and what Joey McGuire has done, but we saw that schedule that was just flashed up on the screen. They got West Virginia this weekend. You feel like that should be a win, but then it's Oklahoma. Eventually, you got Oklahoma State coming up. So to me, I think all the pressure's on Steve Sarkisian. He's got to get this thing right. So far, when you look at that schedule, a road loss to Texas Tech, a loss to Alabama in a game really that was kind of a coin flip. I think things are still on schedule, but you got to be nervous about things getting off the track here. You got to keep the course and keep everyone motivated and focused. So that's the big thing I want to know about Texas. How is Steve Sarkisian going to keep that locker room prepared moving forward? Because it could easily unravel here, and that certainly wouldn't be good for the Longhorns.
Nothing should scare you more as a fan, whether it's of Texas or any other program, than inconsistency. And you look at Texas, sometimes they look at like a top 5 team in the country, a team that could contend for a college football playoff. And then there are other times they leave you kind of scratching their head. So far through the Steve Sarkisian era, that's what it's been. It's been a mixed bag, which is kind of who he's been throughout his career. Now, in terms of what they've done on the recruiting trail, they're number 2 right now in the 2023 24/7 Sports Composite Team rankings. That is certainly good enough. That's where you want to be, with Arch Manning, the number 1 player in the country, leading the way. Last year, a top 5 class as well. So to me, Drew, I kind of take a step back at this and I look at this year 3 for Steve Sarkisian, regardless of what this year looks like. I think he's going to get another year unless the train just goes directly off the tracks. But year 3 is going to be a make or break year for Steve Sarkisian. They've done a good job on the talent acquisition side. It's just whether or not Steve Sarkisian is the right guy to take this forward. Now, I think he needs the time, but I'm more interested to see how is Texas going to respond when they hit adversity, because there were some cultural issues last year that they believe they have solved. So to me, that's the biggest question mark with Texas. I don't know, Drew. Is this more of something like, hey, as we approach the second third of the season, are you feeling more positive? Is this what you thought? Or are you a little concerned about them?
Well, remember, Quinn Ewers is out, right? He's hurt. I mean, we talked about Hudson Card and needing him to come back, and look, that kind of proved to be true. So I'm not super concerned right now about Texas. Again, we're going to know a lot coming, I think, out of this West Virginia game. Go in, get a commanding victory, and then turn your attention to the Red River Shootout, because I think that's what it's all about. So I'm not panicking just yet. I said I wanted to talk a little bit about Texas Tech and what they've had to do under Joey McGuire. I think it's impressive. And remember, Joey McGuire is a guy that was hired last November after Texas Tech elected to part ways and start that coaching process a little bit earlier than others. So I think that's something you got to think about when we start looking at where college football is these days. Sometimes schools are a little bit ahead of schedule, and Texas Tech was. I'm not saying that's an excusable loss on the road, but it's still difficult atmosphere, sold out there. And Texas Tech has taken Texas down before on the road just like that.